Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. Brandon again. Today's video, I want to talk about the first piece of Sorinex equipment I've owned, which is their El Diablo dip bar. And I bought this bar for three particular reasons. Number one, I wanted a dip bar. I'm tired of doing barbell movements and banded movements, so I wanted a dip bar. Number two, dip bars are relatively inexpensive compared to how much I normally spend on stuff for this gym. So pretty much any company out there, you take a look at their dip bar selections, you can get one for under $200. That's pretty good in my opinion. And last but not least, I really wanted something from Sorinex. If you've been following me for any length of time, you know in my original basement build, I actually had a Sorinex whole setup, rack, bar, weights, benches on order, and they just kept extending the lead time on it, and that frustrated me, so I canceled that order, and I got in a Rogue order instead, that Monster Light blue rack setup that you're probably a little bit familiar with. I actually looked at them as well for my garage gym build. I had a half rack that I really liked from them, but when I found out that the shipping was just as expensive as the rack itself, doubling the costs, I got frustrated and eliminated them from contention. So here we are in Basement 2.0, third time's a charm. I finally got a piece of Sorinex equipment. It was under $200 and it was a dip bar that I wanted. So it kind of checked all those boxes, if you will. So my initial experience with Sorinex in the past has been tough because of number one, availability issues, and number two, for shipping cost issues. So this one was actually not the case for this particular piece of equipment, which is why you're seeing it right here. Now, if you take a look at the main competitor or the most similar thing out there, that would have been the Rogue Monster Matador, which I've had the Monster Light version of their Matador. I've done a review on it. I dressed up as a Matador. I will link it in the comments section below if I remember to do that during the editing and uploading process. And it's okay. And again, there's no frills here with it, but the Rogue Monster version of this retails for $145. The Sorinex version is $150. At the time of ordering, the Rogue version was out of stock, and the Sorinex version had an 8 to 10 week lead time and was orderable, whereas the Rogue version was not. And you guys know right now during COVID and stock issues with any company, it's tough to get stuff, and when it comes in stock, things pretty much sell out almost immediately. So you could use the Rogue stock bot, or I could just be real consistent about checking the Rogue site. But again, this let me get something from Sorinex and was orderable. And because I didn't really need this, I just wanted it, I was willing to wait the 8 to 10 weeks. And given the fact that the shipping cost wasn't that bad on this, at the end of the day, this cost me $190. The Rogue version with shipping and tax would have cost me $180. I wanted to go with this particular version. Plus, the Sorinex design is a lot better than the Rogue version, and I'll talk about why later on in this video. So for those reasons, I decided to go with the Sorinex model itself. Now, when this thing showed up, I have to say it probably had some of the best packaging I've ever seen. Cardboard box, obviously, but inside that cardboard box, this thing was like vacuum sealed and wrapped in this harder foam. So I'm assuming it was something where they took all the air out and the foam hardens or something like that. It was basically almost molded to this piece of equipment, which left it extremely well protected. Now, even though that was the case, one of the downsides that I mentioned in my rep equalizer plate video was that it's a pro and con thing. You get something that's extremely well protected, but the more protected it is, the more garbage you usually have to dispose of. And those big hard pieces of foam aren't something that are easily just put in your trash can. They almost filled up my entire container that my garbage disposal people come and get every single week. So I had to go to the dump for that. I had some other things to drop off. Not too big of a deal, but it is a pro and con. So there's a silver lining to all that great packaging you see. And even though the packaging on this was fantastic, the unit itself had some damage to it, which I don't think was due to shipping. I think this was obviously something that kind of missed their quality control, and it was something extremely minor. In fact, it could have been a lot worse. It could have had like chipping or flaking on the powder coating, which this thing is powder coated, same as the Rogue Monster Matador. Although if my memory serves correct, the Monster Matador I had before was a little bit less slick than this. It is a textured powder coat, but I do feel like this is a little bit more slick. That of course could easily be fixed with some tape, some chalk, just man up and deal with it anyway. But on a side tangent, I would love to see people start putting some knurl on some of these dip bars. I think that's a key feature that doesn't make sense why people don't do. But the piece that was damaged on this was the end cap. So it has two plastic end caps on each end of the handle, as does the Rogue version of this as well. One of them was pushed in. So it could have been a lot worse, but it's still annoying when you get something brand new, you've been waiting a couple weeks for it, you pay relatively expensive money, $200, you pay less. You don't want to get anything new that has damage to it. So I reached out to Sorinex, and within 10 days to a week, they got me a replacement end cap, which is good. I'm fine with that. Again, no need for this. And this is a cheap order, and this thing probably costs like 25 cents or so. So they sent me two, so I'm up a quarter. Hey, go me. But nothing that would really stop you from using it other than just a cosmetic issue, which was just irritating. So they sent me that. And this thing was really jammed in there. I tried to get it out with a pair of needle nose pliers. I didn't want to damage the powder coat on it. So what I ended up having to do is get a drill and drilling the cap and then using the needle nose pliers inside of that to kind of wedge it out. Once I did that, put the new cap on and just banged it with a mallet to get it in, and it works fine. So very solid piece of equipment in this case. For the most part, I say solid because like most dip bars that I've seen, this thing has a ton of English on a rack side to side. So as you can see from this video, there's a lot of movement. I think this would be the case on a Sorinex rack as well. It'd be the same on, probably even be greater on a rep rack, because a rep rack is actually like 2.95 inches by 2.95 inches. So just a slight bit thinner than this. The good news is in the usability feature, when you're actually using it, because your weight is pressing down, you're not gonna get as much of that side to side motion, but it would just be nice to see this thing secured a little bit better. The Rogue Matador was also a little bit sloppy when it came to that as well. Now, in terms of why I think this is a killer feature design-wise, which is funny to say because like it's a dip bar, like how fancy can you get with this? It's in the design itself. If you notice right here where the pin attaches, it's a little bit lower, which means that you can turn this thing sideways and actually mount it to the rack to kind of keep it out and away. So dip bars can get in the way. They're a fairly big piece of equipment. They're light, they're easy to move, but I mean, it does take up some floor real estate otherwise. So the fact with this is you can actually mount it on your rack is a key feature, because if you have the Rogue Monster Matador version, they sell a hanger for their piece of equipment, but it's like an extra 50 bucks. So it puts it well above the price of what you get from Sorinex, and it's one less piece of equipment that you have to deal with. So the fact that this is rack mountable in a storage sense was good enough for me. Add that on top of the fact that it's a Sorinex piece of equipment. I wanted a dip bar. It kind of checked all my boxes, if you will. It's nothing fancy, but if you're in the market for an actual dip bar, and again, you want something that you can easily store on your rack and isn't going to kill you with shipping or whatever, or someone else is out of stock, this I think is a pretty good option. I'm probably not going to do a long-term review because it's a dip bar. What can you really say about it? The powder coat's probably going to chip over time, probably going to get a little faded, whatever the case may be. But otherwise, very solidly built because it's all UHMW on the inside, and it serves its purpose, which is for doing dips. If you have any questions or comments or things you want feedback on for this particular dip bar, you guys know what to do. Leave it in the comment section below. But in the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.